Paul revealed to us that everything he was doing, although he was trained, although he was learned, but he was functioning by the grace of God. In 1 Corinthians 15:10, he said, I labor more than they all. He said, yet not I, but the grace of God that is in me. Hope you know, Paul was a trained lawyer, trained by Gamaliel, the best in his generation. And when Paul was talking about natural credentials, he said he was better than everybody that was his peer. But when it came to fulfilling destiny, he said, I labor by the grace of God. Many persons end their possibilities around their natural abilities. And so when spirits get involved, they become vulnerable. What will give you an edge, even when spirits are involved, is the utilization of the grace of God that is on your life. So make sure, in addition to your human ability, tap into your grace ability. Manifest your grace ability. But because that is what will give you distinction as you walk through life. Are you following me? Praise God. There are two dimensions to grace. The first dimension to grace is the saving dimension. And the second dimension to grace is the enabling dimension. As you walk through life, there will be a time and a season where your abilities are not fully developed. You will need grace to save you. And all of us pass through that phase, and we are still growing through that phase. But as you are growing in God, you will come to a point where God begins to enable you, so that you too can give expression to grace. Make sure you maximize these two dimensions of grace in your life. There are many things that you have not developed your spiritual ability to undertake. You will need grace to come through for you. But there are many other things that God will deliberately not come through for you because he expects you to have developed your ability. The problem many people have is that when they grow to a level where God expects them to use the ability they have, they are still waiting for God to intervene. And God is watching. I will not keep you a spiritual infant. You must grow. As low as eagles are in the class of life, eagles know when to force their children to exercise their own abilities. These are eagles. They are not even at the human level. When the young eaglet begins to grow, a point comes, the mother takes it from the comfort of the nest and takes it out. Learn how to fly. Don't expect I will bring food here every day. It will throw the young eaglet out. It will fall as if it will crash. It will catch it. Take it back up. Leave it. And it will do that until the young eagle is forced to start flying. That is an eagle. The eagle is not even in the class of men, but they know that much. We who are men, on the other hand, if your child starts coming to a certain age, you'll take him to school. Better go and learn how to use your ability. Don't expect that you'll be here at 30 and I'll be bringing you food. Hope you know when you put your child in school, that's what you are telling your child. An age will come where I will abandon you. Don't think when you are 30 you ask me for clothes. Don't think when you are 30 you ask me for food. At that level, if you can't provide food, you will die of hunger. Why? Because if you continue to pamper like that, the way they pamper, your child will be an infant forever, and it will not be relevant in his generation. And so when the child is 2 or 3, you take the child to school and the child starts learning. You are encouraging the child. You are giving the child gifts for coming first until the child goes to the university and graduates. When he graduates, you start asking him, when are you getting a house? Because now this house is overpopulated. I need time with my wife. We have tried for you. And if that child doesn't get that house, after a while when he's eating, you will come. Even the way he's fetching the food, you look at him. Look at the way you are eating. Your mates are out there. You are here masculating and swallowing food like a dragon. If you like, don't go out and get something. You will force that child. Not because you hate the child, but because there is an ability that must be manifested. Because there is an ability that must be tapped. Because there is a relevance that cannot be achieved until that ability is utilized. That's how grace works. When God encounters a man, the first aspect of grace he brings to that man is the saving grace. And so Ephesians chapter 2 verse 5, the Bible revealed to us, when we were dead in sin, when we were helpless in sin, it said God quickened us together. It said by grace are ye saved. So God brings you salvation through grace. In Titus chapter 2 verse 11, he said, the grace of God that bringeth salvation. So there is an element of grace that procures salvation. Do you know how that grace works? Sometimes, as that grace is on your life, they take your matter to a corridor where your priesthood cannot handle, and they are planning on destroying you, and the grace begins to work. An angel that services that grace is activated, and somebody in the corridor of power that you have never spoken to suddenly will feel something. There will be a prick in his heart, and he'll say, no, why are they condemning this person like this? That person will rise up in your defense, because the angel that services your grace has gone to do something to the heart of that person, and God will raise intervention for you where you don't know. Sometimes it's your job. They are planning on promotion and they forgot your name, or they deliberately put your name aside. But there is a grace for speed on your life, and that grace cannot allow one season pass you by. And so because of that grace of speed, if a cherubim must be mobilized, that cherubim must be mobilized. If the whole promotion must wait, it must wait. I was talking to a brother recently, and the guy said, he met me in Enugu last week when we traveled. He just finished his PhD, and so they were delaying his result, whereas convocation was by the corner, and the Senate had to approve his result for his name to be included so that it can be printed in the convocation manual, and they were delaying. But there was something on the young man's life. There is a speed, a grace for speed on his life, and the law of that grace is that you can't miss any season. And so because of this guy, they delayed the printing of the material for convocation and waited for another 3 days until Senate approved result. They sent his name to the printing press before they started printing, so that by all means his name will be included in the convocation. Because of this matter, the deputy vice chancellor could not sleep. Even the deputy vice chancellor will not know why. There is a grace at work. That's how grace works. Grace will change seasons because of you. Grace will mobilize angels because of you. Grace will alter protocols because of you. By all means, so that intervention comes to you. This is God's strategy of saving his children. Because while we are growing, sir, we will make many mistakes. God knows. We will err in many places. God knows. Even the requirement of priesthood, the requirement of diligence, the requirement of faithfulness, many times we will not pass it. But when God sees that I have already put my signature of this person, there is a grace on his life. Imagine, there are some of us here who are healing evangelists. God has already written that my signature on this man to his generation is healing. Now God prepares a meeting that is supposed to announce him to his generation, but unfortunately he didn't prepare for that meeting. By the purpose of the law of diligence, he should err. But you see, God has already implicated himself by putting that grace on that guy. So even though he came that day not prepared, and that day was the stage for his manifestation, God will look at him, and because of that grace, he didn't pray enough, he didn't fast enough, but he must have to manifest. And so there is something that will happen. The saving dimension will be activated. An angel will whisper to the keyboardist, and the keyboardist will go and resurrect an ancient sound, the sound the guy heard the day he encountered God. And as he is touching it, suddenly the grace begins to boil. The grace begins to boil, and ancient scriptures that he heard 5 years ago will come alive. And as he starts releasing them, even him knows that he didn't come with enough faith for healing that day, but the testimonies he starts hearing, he will know that something beyond him is involved. Because suddenly cancer will vanish, suddenly deaf ears open, and he's saying, I don't have enough faith for this. He will almost be shouting and say, excuse me, what is happening here? I'm not involved. But the grace will say, keep quiet. Divinity is manifesting through humanity. God is walking through a human vessel. And so what you will do is that you will just keep quiet and you'll be watching. You will see God on display. When they finish, they will say, the apostle of signs and wonders. You and God know that Jesus is the one who was walking. You had no hand in it. It's called the saving grace. The saving grace engenders intervention. The saving grace provokes deliverance. The saving grace enhances possibility of qualification even when you are not ready. So that by all means, everything God has written concerning you will find expression. I don't know where you are. I don't know the mistakes you have made. I don't know the crisis you have been through, but tonight there is a grace coming for you. Everything that makes you insufficient, everything that disqualifies you, everything that makes you err, everything that should discredit you, they are eroded by the powers of grace.